Grief is such an overpowering emotion, especially after losing someone so close to you. It can take months, years, even decades to get back to normal, if that's even possible after experiencing a significant loss. This podcast was created to help you move through and release the emotions, allowing you to heal the hurt and begin living again. Listen in as I chat with medical professionals, grief workers, and people who have first-hand experience in losing a loved one, what their experience has been, and what they did to help heal themselves and those around them. Life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, but I believe there is always a silver lining if you're willing to look. Welcome to the Release Podcast. Welcome to this episode of Release Grief Podcast. Gosh, I forgot my whole name right there. Oh well, welcome to the Release Grief Podcast. Today I'm here with Jen, and she is going to talk to us about, what are you going to talk to us about today?
I'm going to talk about loss. I'm going to talk about how you can experience joy through your mourning journey, which is what I have been trying to do since my mother died in 2018.
Gotcha. Yeah, I found the title of your book. It was so beautiful.
Thank you.
And I normally don't bring up the books and anything until the very end, or to like the last, 15, 20 minutes of the podcast. So you can talk about it, promote it, do whatever you want. But I loved the cover or the title of your book.
Very much.
Yeah. So tell our listeners what it is.
So as I mentioned, in 2018, I lost my mother. She had a short stint of cancer that took her, we found out in January. She died in April. It was a very short 3-month stint.
Wow.
And I threw myself into catharsis of writing a book called Have a Good Mourning, and that's Mourning with a U. And I chose that specific title because I found on my journey that a lot of the traditional grieving counseling and techniques that are given to us just were not working for me. A lot of them, I felt worse. I would go pour my heart out to a grief counselor and I felt horrible. And just one day on my way home from my grief session, I just happened to go to this local park that has a farm, and I saw this woman feeding sheep, and actually it was goats, forgive me, goats. And I asked her, I'm like, how did you get the chance to feed these goats? And she told me and put me in touch with the farmer. And it was just in that moment that I'm like, wow, I want to do this, in memory of my mom. I mean, there's no connection to sheep or goats, but it just made me feel really good. And it just put me on this journey of like, how can I infuse joyful experiences in order to mourn my mother's loss? And that kind of set me, like I said, on this path of wanting to learn from other people who are doing the same thing. So I managed to interview about 20 people and learned about how they were mourning joyfully, and the book is the result. I've infused a lot of my own personal stories about my mom just to share her beauty with the world, and it was such a wonderful experience just to be able to write not only about my stories and my mom's stories but other people's stories. And so yeah, it's been it was an amazing experience. And I recently just had an event at a local library, and it was just so touching to see people, get a lot out of this book. I told myself when I wrote it, I wasn't trying to get rich or make money. I just wanted to help touch people's
Yeah.
lives. And I told myself if it helped one person other than me, then it would be a success.
Right.
So I think it's been successful. So,
Yay.
but yeah.
Oh, congratulations. So what I was talking about with the title is she's got what's the title of it? From Morning to Morning, or Joyful Morning?
It's called Have a Good Mourning.
Have a Good Mourning. And morning is spelled Mourning.
Correct.
And it caught my attention because when we're in grief, or when, people perceive us to be in grief, they perceive us to be crying and tearful and down all the time, but it doesn't have to be that way. It's a choice that you're making. Once you get through like the initial like onslaught of emotions,
Mhm.
and when you start to try to make sense of everything, then you can get to choose like, okay, am I going to stay stuck in that moment or am I going to push through
Mhm.
and choose to have a good day, choose to honor my loved one with happiness and joy as opposed to sorrow and tears and mourning. And I loved it. I thought it was beautiful.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I found out very early on. I mean, I had glimpses of this epiphany even as we were preparing for her funeral and her viewing. I just didn't want to wear black. So I
yeah,
wore a beautiful, like bright cherry red dress to her viewing. And a very pretty emerald green dress to her funeral. I just did not want to wear, I mean, and this is just my experience. Some people
right.
find the dark colors resonate with their grief and mourning, but I just felt very passionate about, wearing bright colors. Because my mother was a very bright, beautiful spirit. And I just felt that really uh reflected who she was more than these dark colors. And again, that's just my experience. A lot of people looked at me like I was a little
I
um
do. Like,
yeah,
what are you
off,
doing?
like
Like, don't you
right,
know this is a funeral? Like,
right,
you're supposed to
exactly,
be sad.
right. So I've had those little glimpses of this mindset pretty early on, and then I was able to really pull it all together in this book. So, it definitely is something that I still practice today, even 6 years later. I mean, I'm coming up on her 6th year anniversary at the end of April. I'm already thinking like, what can I do, to just commemorate that day. My sisters and I hosted a life celebration event a year after she passed away and had all of her beautiful friends there, and we had this beautiful tent. And we she loved to walk. I grew up on a Christmas tree farm in Maryland, and we took her route around the tree farm, and we planted flowers in her garden. We had her favorite, and she loved Italian food, so we had a catered Italian food. And anyway, so we find ways to really um make sure that we're connected to her spirit and in a joyful way in our family as much as possible. Me being the ringleader, because
Right.
I feel very passionate about it. I think a lot of my family goes along with what I like to do, but it means a lot to me to be able to mourn her loss
Yeah.
joyfully. So.
Oh, I totally can relate to that 100 million%.
Mhm.
So after our daughter died in
Mhm. So sorry.
2016, thank you. Um, it was everyone kept coming to us like, what are we gonna do? She was my stepdaughter, and so her mom and myself and my husband and her stepdad, like we plan events together. Like it really changed our dynamics of our relationship. So it's more like, um, I don't know, it's like transcended all space and time at that moment.
Mhm.
And it's been a beautiful journey with her and well, them, to be doing things because at the time of this recording of this episode, we just celebrated her what would have been her 27th birthday.
Oh.
And so we got together and we went to the bowling alley and we invited the community to come in and go bowling with us. And it turned out beautiful. There were so many people that came and supported us and shared stories and laughed with us and cried with us,
Mhm.
and it's still even after 7 years. It's
Right.
it's and then on her death date, we just do something quiet at home. Like I'm
Mhm.
like I'm having I didn't want to celebrate the day of her passing. I wanted to celebrate the day of her birth. And so
Right.
for me, this is where I would come in at. And I'm like, I don't really, we can get together and we can play cards or games or whatever
Mhm.
and do that quietly at home. But
Sure.
on the date of her birth, I want to go big. It's a birthday party. Let's have
Right.
one.
Absolutely.
Do it.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with you. My mother's birthday was Valentine's Day, which is very suiting for her because she has
Yeah.
a humongous heart. Um, but I did something this past Valentine's Day that was kind of out of character for me, but I just wanted to do something. So I walked into Cracker Barrel and like, I'm going to treat someone to lunch, just
Cute.
anonymously. And it's something my mom would have done. She was very generous. So anyway, I walk up to the register and I'm already like kind of right now, I'm kind of was like teary eyed. And the woman, I've actually seen her before. Um, because I go in there. I love their little shop. I love buying
Yes.
there. Anyway, so I've been in there a few times already, and I recognized her anyway. So she noticed that I was getting ready to cry, and she literally doesn't ask any questions, comes around to the other side of the counter and gives me this huge hug. And I explained to her what I'm trying to do. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I lost my mom 10 years ago. I get
Oh,
it." And like we had this like amazing, beautiful embrace, and people are looking at us like we're insane, but it was so beautiful. And then it turns out that her name was Jennifer too, the woman. And then we
wow.
were talking about our moms. And so anyway, she goes and finds a cute old couple who clearly is celebrating Valentine's Day. They're wearing red and the woman has a
Aw.
heart pin. And so she's like, okay, I'm going to print out their bill. I paid for it. And then, and my mother was a tremendous gift giver. So I had to go buy like a cute little beanie baby duo, like a red bear and a blue bear.
Oh, cute.
Tootsie Roll. I mean, I'm just saying this. I'm not saying this to be like, look at me. It was such an
No.
amazing experience to do that for somebody, and
Yes.
they don't know who did it. But a friend of mine had these cards made that say like, it's like a random act of kindness card, like in memory
Yeah.
of Sue Hale, which was my mother's name. And I gave it to her to give them. So I have no idea how it turned out, but anyway, it was just such a wonderful experience that she saw how like teary-eyed I was, and she just came and hugged me. And then her name was Jennifer, and we talked about, anyway, it was just such a wonderful experience. So I totally get the birthday um,
Mhm.
celebration.
I
So
do love that. That is so a lot of times we don't, or at least for me, like it's hard to pull yourself out of the funk that you may find yourself in. Like I thought I was doing great this year. Like I've done lots of mindset work, heart set work, like all the things, with losing her. Um, but this year it just kind of hit a little differently than, the previous years, which I'm sure every year is going to hit differently.
Mhm.
And this year I was just kind of in a funk. And so I was really looking forward to the bowling party, and
I love that.
the bowling alley put up Memorial Birthday up on the screens that we
Oh,
had. And I put that on my timeline and all that stuff because I'm like, I've never seen that before,
that
but it was
is so
really cool.
Mhm.
Um, and then our other daughter and we made cupcakes with homemade roses on them
Oh,
and
wow.
fondant roses. And then we did white chocolate sugar skulls
Oh,
because she loved Halloween. It was her favorite holiday. And
oh,
so we did purple and black and everything was
I love
glittery.
that. Hmm.
And it was we had a lot of fun. We put a lot of effort and time into it, but it's one of those things that makes us feel better about giving to
Yes.
other people
Yes.
and finding a way to smile, even though it's sad, finding a way to smile through it and have fun with it and
Oh,
enjoy it.
absolutely. I know. I mean, I look forward to, when I had that idea to do that, I was like really excited to do it and see it through. And so, I totally agree with you that I mean, I hate to say it's kind of fun to come up with
It
other
is.
ideas, but it definitely helps. And I've learned that, like I kind of was going through a funk too the past, couple months. Um, and throwing yourself into like taking the focus off of you and your hurt and giving to someone else, I've found
Mhm.
is like a incredible healing experience for
Yeah.
any kind of grief journey. So I love that you did that.
Yes. And just think of the impact that that little old couple had from receiving that and the shock that they would probably are like, what? Someone
Mm-hmm.
did this for us? Like
Right.
those are the reactions that I love to do as well, because it's,
Mhm.
it just anytime I can, I'm definitely a gift giver, and my husband hates it because like, who is this one for? Who is this one?
Right.
Like,
Oh my
oh,
gosh,
you
babe.
reminded me of them.
You're my kindred spirit because my boyfriend says that to me all the time. What are you, yeah, exactly. Who is that for? But I mean,
Right.
he gets gifts too. So,
Yes. I
even if
buy
it's like a
my
candy
husband will
bar.
say something, and then like 6 or 8 months later it shows
Right,
up for him, and he's like,
right.
I
Yes.
was just thinking about that. I'm like, I know, I know.
Right. I know. My mother was the same way. Like she would always pick up little tidbits of people's
Yes.
conversations and then, conjure up this amazing gift. So, and I've kind of, I mean, to me, it's a blessing, but sometimes I feel like it's a curse because I feel like I wish I could sometimes turn that off because I feel like I can't.
Yes.
So,
I
anyway.
agree with that. So it got to the point so much for us for like at Christmas time. Like I would buy things that would remind me of my children. Well, blended family, we have 5 children.
Hmm.
So Christmases get kind of pricey for us. And
Hmm.
then we have currently 9 grandchildren.
Wow.
And so it's like our family just grew exponentially. There's 19 of us now,
Wow. Yeah.
all the
Family.
others and the grandkids and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, my gosh, my husband's like, how much are we going to spend and blah, blah, blah. And it was always about numbers. And then it was always about like, I felt like I was filling their houses full of stuff
Hmm.
that they either didn't want to wear it or use it because it was a memento that they got from us. And so it was just cluttering up their house. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, that's not my intention. First of all, I wanted to use it. And so we just went strictly to giving them, like this year we didn't even buy, or this last year we didn't even buy our grandkids gifts.
Hmm.
We just do an experience. And so
Yeah,
we
I
take
love
a
that.
water park like 2 nights, and we just go all out. There. They buy their own meals or whatever, and
Hmm.
breakfast, whatever foods they need and the fuel to get there. But then their room and their wristbands and all that stuff is taken care of. And so that way we can all get together as a family, because it's really hard to get together with 19 of us.
Oh, I bet. Yes. No, I love that. I'm really into buying experiences because they remember, they'll always remember that, you know.
They do.
They won't
And
remember the thing you bought them, when they were
I don't even
young.
remember the thing I bought them after I've given it. I'm like, oh, that's done.
Right, right. Yes. I mean, it's definitely fun to buy things. Like I definitely love, putting together a really customized, like personalized gift for somebody, but I think the experience, they'll always remember that forever.
Absolutely. I think you're right. It's definitely a lot of fun for me anyway. I guess if they don't have fun, then that's on them.
Right. That's
We
true.
do, I like to do dinner parties and stuff too. And
Mhm.
theme them and have fun with it. And my husband always tells me, so one of the things that we do with his ex-wife and our daughter's stepdad is we have poker parties.
Oh, nice.
And so every month there's 3 of us families, and it's our family, her family, or her and her husband, and then another couple that are in it. And we rotate going to each other's house every month for a poker party.
Oh,
And
cool.
so when it comes to our month, whatever the person who's hosting it provides like the meat, like the main course, and everyone else just brings sides or desserts.
Hmm.
And then all the kids show up. So sometimes there's like 20, 25 people at these
Yeah.
parties. They're not small. Um, but we have so much fun. And my husband always tells me, especially when it's our month to host it, he goes, calm down a little bit. You like to go a little too much, and then
Yes.
you're tired and stressed out by the time the party comes. I'm
So
like,
true.
yeah, but everyone's having fun and loving it. It's fine. It's fine.
Yes, but you need to enjoy it too.
I do. And I'm learning to make things simple and whatnot, but
It's hard though, especially
it
when you
is
have a lot of
hard.
ideas and want to be creative and express that, it's
Yeah,
hard to hold that.
it is
Yeah,
hard.
it resonates with me because I struggle with that too.
Yes. And I love to cook, and so I'll always pull out new recipes, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, where'd you get that?" I don't know. I just looked it up 10 minutes ago. No.
Oh, you're very brave. I usually stick to what I know in the kitchen, especially if I'm having a group of people over. It's hard for me to be adventurous when it comes to new recipes, but
Yeah.
I'm inspired by you.
Oh, I love cooking. I love anything that's new. So I will like Anyway, we're getting way off topic here. So your mother
No, it's
sounds
okay.
like an amazing
Oh.
person, like with her gift giving and stuff like that. You said when you found out it happened very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
What type of cancer did she have? Like, or how did she like, what was
Sure.
going on?
So, around Christmas time, 2017, my mother was just very more tired than usual. She could not get like going in the morning. I mean, she's was like would very morning person. Like she would get up early and she was having like dizzy spells and
Mm,
her doctor kind of chalked it up to just some kind of virus that would eventually go away. But my sister, who was a nurse, recognized that this was not normal behavior, normal for my mom. So she took her to the ER. I met them there. That was the end of January. And then the next day we found out that she had stage 4 lung cancer.
oh
Um,
no.
I know it was a huge shock, to our family, our systems, everything. And of course we had hope that, some experimental drug would be able to cure it, but it was too
Right.
far along. The oncologist did say that she probably had it for about a year and
Really?
didn't didn't register. I mean, hindsight's 2020. Like
Yeah.
looking back, she was able to say, "Oh, okay, I did have back pain, and she did have cancer in her spine. Like she had those dizzy spells. Obviously just got progressively worse. So, we took her home. She did go through, I think, one round of chemo and one round of radiation, but that just was the beginning of the end. Her body just was so weak and far gone from the cancer that didn't even,
Mhm.
that made it worse. It exacerbated the
Oh,
situation. So we just made her comfortable. um you know we I have two sisters. I have an older sister who was a nurse, and she really took the reins on her care. I mean, we had hospice organization come in, but my
yeah.
sister really uh did the heavy lifting with administering morphine, if my mother was uncomfortable. um but anyway, so that was a very horrible time. And then I have another sister who was living in Montana at the time, and she flew back and stayed at home for several weeks. And then she passed away on my parents, what would have been their 37th wedding anniversary.
Who
So,
passed away? Your mom?
yes, on their, like, so that date
Oh,
um
wow.
was their wedding anniversary, which is kind of interesting. But
Is
anyway,
Dad still with us? Or
yes, yes.
okay.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
yeah, it was really hard. I mean, in a lot of ways, I'm very grateful that we had those 3 months with her. I know a lot of people, like we're dealing with a family loss right now. A really close friend of my father's, and he was a family friend. Like he died just like super suddenly.
suddenly. Hmm.
So it's a very different kind of loss where I was able
Hmm.
to talk to my mom and tell her how much she meant to me, and but it's not, doesn't make it easier. It just was
Right.
different. Like I was able to
Right.
say goodbye to her, quote unquote. um so I know that I found that to be a tremendous blessing. And I actually was there with her when she physically died, which I thought I wasn't going to be able to do. But I talk about it a little bit this in my book, just about how, your resilience comes out. Like it might be dormant for a very long time, but then when you have to deal with something very stressful and incredibly sad, like the death of your mother, or a child, this inner resilience comes out. And I was able
Mhm.
to deal with it, and I was able to be there with her, and which was a blessing in and of itself, because she would have done that for me. And I
Absolutely.
think she really, even though she was not with it, I think, they say hearing is the last thing to go. Like I was just telling her how much I love her in her ear, as she was, transitioning.
Hmm.
So that was also, I feel very grateful to have been there with her when she died.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm sure she loved every moment of it too, even though she was leaving you guys.
mhm.
Um, yeah. Oh my gosh. So my dad, when he passed in 2005. And
Aw.
we found out he had been sick since December. He was really having issues like with his stomach,
Mm.
and he waited until I want to say June or July. He lived in Missouri and I live in Minnesota. And
Mhm.
we waited until June or July to go see the doctor, and they thought, oh, maybe there's something with his stomach, whatever. And come to find out, he had pancreatic cancer and he was
Oh,
already progressed so far.
I'm so
And so
sorry.
by that August, he was gone.
Oh,
I
wow.
would drive from Minnesota to Missouri like every weekend or every other weekend to go down and help my mom, and just watching him, from this big hulking guy down to this little shell of a man
Mhm.
was just, that was my first major encounter with death at up close.
Right, right.
Like the
Yes.
first funeral I remember going to was of a baby. I mean, and that was so traumatizing, but I had that distancing in there. Like it wasn't my baby. I was only like 13, 14 years old.
Right.
Um, and I never walked down to the casket because I don't like to look at the people in the casket because I don't want that to be my last
Yes. That's
sight of them.
a good rule.
It is a good role. And so for me anyway, other people, they need that closure and it's, whatever. But I'm like, I can't. I
Mhm.
have such a vivid imagination that it would
Sure.
haunt me forever.
Oh yeah. No, I kind of wish I didn't with my mom, but I was there when she died,
You're
so I
there.
saw her. But
I
the
did my
thing,
dad too. Yeah. I remember
yeah.
seeing him. Our daughter was different because it was a freak vehicle accident.
Oh,
So one moment she was there and one moment she wasn't. And she was
right.
19 at the time. So that one was the hardest.
Oh, I bet. Oh my gosh, so tragic. I'm so sorry. That's so sad. Um, I know, I'm so sorry to hear about your father too. I mean, it's so like you were talking about like this, you know, dad who was strong and you've looked up to him for so many years as, this invincible being, like
Yes.
comes down to nothing. I mean, I had the same experience with my mother,
Yeah.
I didn't even recognize her.
Sucks the life right out of them. And
Yeah.
it's so sad to watch it because you're like, you want to fix it, you want to change it, there's nothing you can do. And you're helpless. It's like holding you hostage at
Really?
that point. Just you have to watch to see how everything goes. And there's like no breaks.
No,
No, it's
I
like a
know.
freight train crashing and you can't even stop it.
It's so true. I know I felt very helpless through that whole experience. Like luckily my sister has a medical background, so she was able to help at
Yeah.
least. I mean, I was just there to, support her, even though she was feeling awful most of the time, which was heartbreaking. Um, but yeah, it's a very surreal experience to deal with that. Um, and I was able to, even after my mother passed away, um, I was able to stay in the room, I just couldn't leave her. And I've always been kind of weird about like funeral homes and being in the room with a deceased body but for some reason when it came to her, like I was telling you about that inner resilience, I just could not
Hmm.
leave her. And I was the only one in the room at that point. Like everyone had kind of, I mean, she died early in the morning, like 1:30-ish.
Yeah.
And so everyone, we were waiting for the hospice nurse to come declare her, and I just waited, and everyone else kind of went to different rooms to kind of rest. But I couldn't. But the thing I did really like seeing her in that way. Oh gosh, sorry, my computer just went kaput. Sorry, sorry about
Oh, you're okay.
that. My computer just did something weird. Um, and like she looked like as soon as she was getting ready to pass away, she kind of had a little bit of a smile, which kind of was comforting to me because I
Yeah.
think she loved who she was seeing. As she
Yeah.
entered the afterlife or heaven, I'd like to think it was her parents and maybe her obviously God or Jesus and like she
Right.
had a really close uncle who was such a goofball. So I like to think that they all welcomed her, which was a very big comfort for me. Um,
Yeah.
so
That is awesome. I love it. And it's I think that when people think about death and loss, it's just got to be sad and horrible, but
Mhm.
there's also so many beautiful things that are there through it all if you're looking for it. And
Absolutely.
if you let it in. 'Cause a lot of people just don't let it in because
Mhm.
they don't think that happiness and grief can be in the same existence, on the same plane. Um, and it's heartbreaking on some of those, when I listen to some of those people and they're like, no, no, it has to be one way or the other. And I'm like, but it doesn't. It doesn't. You can be happy and grieve at the same time.
It's true.
Not
It's true.
happy that they're gone. You're happy for the memories that
Right.
you've made and the things that you've
Right.
done, the memories that you continue to have.
Mhm. There's a lot of misconceptions. I mean, I've had people come up to me and be like, I don't understand why you feel the need to be joyful. I mean, it seems
Yeah.
over her death. I'm like, actually, it's the polar opposite of that. First of all, I'll never be over her death, but the fact that I like to infuse joy and happiness into this journey that I was inevitably given,
Yes.
if I could change it, I would, trust me.
Right. Right.
But it just for me, I feel more connected to her when I'm happy because she
Yeah.
would want me to be happy and
Yeah.
she
And
would
it's
want
a
me to be,
choice.
yeah, it
It's
totally
literally a
is.
choice.
Totally is. And
You can choose to be happy or you can choose to be mad or you can choose to be angry or sad or laughing or not. And it's a choice.
right. And some days I choose to be mad.
Yeah.
And some days I choose to be happy. It just it's how you're feeling and you have to feel all of the feelings you are feeling
Mhm.
in order to really overcome them and grow from them.
Yeah.
Like I think about how she'll never hold, my children, or I'll never see her interact with if, I don't have children right now, but if I do
Right. No,
one
I get
day
it.
like that, then I get mad. But then I think about how I can, hand them this book I wrote and be like, this is who your grandmother was, then
I love
it makes
that. It
it
makes it a memorial
yes,
piece.
sorry. Made
No,
me
you're
raw.
absolutely fine.
I mean, even 6 years later, it depends on, sometimes I just get teary-eyed and raw. And I think that's just part of just this love that I've had for her hasn't been able to go anywhere except for how I channel it. So sometimes it just bottles up. But
No, I think that how people grieve, how they choose to grieve says a lot about the person, as far as whether they're wanting to work through it and see the joyfulness of it, the happiness of it, and share and you don't have to, like, you didn't have to write a book, you didn't have to go and share anything, you didn't have to come on this podcast.
yeah,
You could just have sat at home and quietly dealt with your grief and do whatever it is that you want to do at home.
right.
So I think it makes it so much more difficult with grief because there's so many variables at play with the
Mhm.
people that are going through it and how it resonates with that person.
Right.
And I don't know that it ever gets better. I just think that we find better ways of dealing with it, of coping with it, like releasing those emotions.
Mhm.
Um, because I gotta tell you, first of all, I'm so sorry about your mom
Thank you. And I'm
and
so sorry your
and
father.
all of the trauma and stuff, the careening down this path that it put you on. Um, but I am thankful for the book that you're writing to help other people
Thank you.
because it's going to impact lives and help people realize that they don't have to be angry and sad because it's loss.
Mhm.
That they can choose, like you can smile through tears, like the sun still shines when it's raining.
That's true. That's
I
true.
mean, we can still have all of it.
That's true.
But writing a book was one of the most therapeutic ways I have ever gotten to release my grief
Mhm.
and to take me into the next stage, into the next,
Yes.
whatever it was for myself, whatever I needed. Um,
Right.
Writing my book took me there.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. I have to read. I want to read your book. But I couldn't agree more. I love how you said that because it definitely helped me process, the stage I was in order to like catapult me into the next level. But not to say that I don't regress. I mean, there's oftentimes I go
Yeah.
going backwards, but it's all about just feeling and feeling the emotions you're feeling in order to release them, in order to move on and grow. You know, I think that's really important.
Right.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
I found that when I try to like push the emotions down, they
Mhm.
usually like blow up in my face, kind of like,
Yes.
Old
And
Faithful. The guy there, we're just gonna like, sorry, here we come. It doesn't matter. Be like, no, 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 I just did my makeup. I'm in front of people. I'm
right?
speaking. Please don't. No, and too late. It's here. They're like,
I've
hold on,
learned,
baby, watch this.
right. I've learned that if I suppress my emotions, they manifest in very ugly ways. So
Yeah.
it's better to just deal with them head on. When, you know, I'm not a very good journaler, but whenever I do, it always feels so good. I wish I
Right.
was consistent with it, but anyway, that does help.
I do. So ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to become a writer. I wanted
Hmm.
to become a writer. And I never took that any further than, just saying the words, I want to be a writer. That was it. I never put pen to paper. I never like had any outlines. I never did any of that stuff. And then, so in 2016, we lost our daughter. I wanted to create like a course to help people with what they're going through after losing a child, like give them like the basics. And I had the outlines, I had everything done. I just needed to go record the videos and everything would have been done, but I didn't because she was my stepdaughter and I let that like hitch me for a
Mhm.
little bit.
Yeah.
Like, well, this isn't my story. How can I do that? But it is my story. I have a story to tell with that and stuff too. And then fast forward to 2022 and I lost my 4-year-old granddaughter.
Oh,
And
oh.
I felt like I was in 2.0
Mm.
and I started closing in on myself. And then previous to her passing, I had hired a business coach because I used to do sales funnels and landing pages and different things like that. And I wanted to grow my business. I wanted to, make big money. That's what I was going to do. And I found out about my granddaughter and I said, no, I need to change. I want to help people. I want to help people. And so overnight, my business changed. I
Wow.
stopped working with all my clients. I stopped doing all this. And his first thing for me was, he goes, you have to write a book. You have to write your story.
Oh, no.
And then I became a published author. That was what I done. I wrote it in a month and I published it in a month.
1 month. Wow.
Yeah. It probably shows because I need to take it through editing again, but
Oh,
you know
well,
what?
I'm
It's
very
my story and it's very raw. It's very real. It's very me. Um, and that, but writing that book, it helped with so much of the emotions
Mhm.
going through it. Um, but the anger still comes. That's the one that I deal with the most.
Anger.
And so I
Yeah.
have a phrase that I coined called rage responsibly.
I love that.
Because, you can let it blaze out
Yes.
of control, or you can, find healthy ways to get it out.
What
What
ways have you found that help you?
I'm sorry, what was
But
that?
I was just curious what way, if you're willing to share, like what ways, because I
Sure.
struggle with that too. And sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy because
Yes.
I have so much anger that I think I'm not addressing, when it comes to just loss in general. But
I
anyway.
think that's normal though, because this person that we've loved and we want to see is no longer in our lives. And they're a very intimate and an intricate part of our world.
Right.
And so for me, it's crafting. I love crafting.
Mm.
I love going to thrift stores and shopping for antiques or things like that.
Yeah.
I love, like my daughter and we went to a Krav Maga class to like literally fight,
Yeah.
and get those emotions out.
Yeah.
Um, I was in the process going through these. I hadn't coined the term yet, rage responsibly, but I had started like an adventure club. And the first adventure I wanted to go to was to Las Vegas, where we
Oh,
would go out into the desert and we'd shoot these big mortars or these big guns, whatever, and just blow stuff up out there.
love it.
And then we'd go to these rage rooms and we would just beat the crap out of things, just to release all of that anger, all that pent up emotion, because it has to have somewhere to go. If
Mhm.
you do not express it, it will stay inside you and it'll manifest in other ways. And I don't know if you're familiar, there was a study done years ago about this gentleman who had cooked off a bunch of rice and he put half of it in one container and half of it in another container. And then he spoke, like, one of the containers, he spoke good words to it and loving words to it and healthy, healing words to it. And then the other one, he spoke negative and hateful words to it. Well, the one that he spoke negative to, the rice started to get turned black and started to get old and yucky. The one that he spoke good words to lasted substantially longer. And he
Yeah.
had them in the same spot. And so it's just they've also done it, I think, with ice cubes as well for ice
Yeah, I've read a
formations.
book. I'm blanking on the author's name. But yeah, the same thing to with water, like
Yeah.
and free and the ice, and you'll see the different formations and how like
Some
speaking.
look angry and mad, and
No, it's
some
fascinating.
beautiful and
Yes.
gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm blanking
It's
on.
the same thing that comes into your body. Like if you keep that rage and that anger in, so it's if you write, if you like to write or have a penchant for writing, write it out. Like it doesn't have to go anywhere other than you.
Mhm. Right.
Want to get into some rituals, you write it out and then you burn it to
Absolutely.
release.
Yep.
Yeah. And you talk about all the anger, all the rage, all of the injustices that have been dealt to you, whatever, and then you let them go. You
Mhm.
don't dwell on them.
Right. No, I love all
Those are
that.
some of the ways that I do it. Like I like to get physical.
Yeah, I
I've
know.
often thought about taking up like boxing or something like that,
Yes. I did
just to get it
boxing.
out.
It felt really good. I took a lot of my anger out on that bag.
Yeah.
It felt really good to do it. So I probably should do it again. But yeah. No, I love how they're all very healthy, pragmatic ways.
And they're in a controlled environment.
Yes.
Um, like I'm not saying go home and take it out on someone that you love, because that's the unchecked rage, that's the wrong rage.
Yes.
But going into a container, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a rage room, whether it's a boxing ring, whether it's, a martial arts class or a fighting class, or even if it's just running as fast as you can for 10 laps around the track, whatever it is, to just get that out.
Stretch first. I did that recently
Stretch
and
after.
I know I pulled a muscle and anyway, I'm not as young as I used to be, so I can't do full on sprints without stretching. That was a sad realization, but anyway.
No, I hear that. It makes perfect sense. But those are some of the ways that I do it, or painting. Like painting is very therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
love gardening. I'm definitely a big gardener.
Awesome.
Um,
Yeah, and it's so rewarding to see, the work you put into your garden and you see these plants flourishing. That's very rewarding.
I love the fact that the earth is one of the only things that still provides, and continually provides, even though we're so horrible to it.
Mhm.
So we have, all the trees. I believe everything underground is connected, just like everything above ground is connected. And we have this energy and stuff. And so to me, it's very beautiful and symbiotic and all the
Mhm.
things, because even though a plant dies, it still feeds the next ones coming in,
Right.
and all of that.
Yeah.
And it's however you take care of it or what you do with the plant, as to whether it's going to either feed the next plants coming in or it's just going to go into a bin and never feed anything ever again.
Right.
And
I know I watched a documentary about fungus, and that was unbelievably just mind-blowing to see exactly what it does to our earth and how healing it is. And anyway, so whenever I see, these little mushrooms going up trees, I'm just like in awe of their power. Anyway,
yes,
not to get too like woo-woo or hippie or whatever, but I found it to be incredibly fascinating. So I
I'm, it's okay. I will go full woo woo if you want. I'm right here for it. Because I believe that we are connected in so many different ways, more ways than not.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. I know. And I see my mother a lot in nature. Like sometimes I'll just ask, like, Mom, if you can hear me, can you just show me a sign that you're with me, even though I know you're with me? Just I like to see it like in the physical world. And
Yeah.
so, a quick story. I had started a new job right after she died. And like, I was thinking about her and the job I started before, like of course she sent me a good luck text and let me know how it goes and I love you or whatever. So like feeling sad about that. Um and I was walking to the office, and granted this isn't a nature example, but I just happened to look over at this person's car and there was a decal on the back of the car that said Mama Sue. And my mother's name was Sue. And I'm like, oh my God. Like I just couldn't
Love it.
believe my eyes. And she loved birds. Like she would always feed the birds. So uh whenever I see like a red cardinal, I think of her immediately and I know that's her. Like I don't know if it's her, but someone is sending me this sign, an angel or God or whoever. But so I love just asking, like, can you
Yeah.
show me you're with me today? I find that very comforting.
It's
So
amazing how the universe conspires to show you as well.
I know, I love it.
Let
I
you
love it.
know that, hey, we're here. We're still, I
Yes.
think of it as, so I'm gonna go woo woo here.
Okay, let's go it. Do it.
When we're a young child, we can see, I believe we can see in different dimensions
Hmm.
as a young child, but then as an adult, like I wonder, like around me, what is happening around me that I can't see? Like
Yeah.
who here, what is happening? How can I support that existence around me and make it flourish for not only my benefit, but their benefit as well? Like,
Right,
how
right.
can we bring these things together? Because I mean, it's not just us here. There's, you know, every person who's ever been here before is here as well.
I know it is. It's kind of strange to think about because our human minds want to make sense of everything.
Yes. Put me in a
Um,
box.
so I feel like I try to rationalize something I'm seeing or hearing or whatever, but sometimes there isn't an answer. And sometimes it can be kind of eerie, but also pretty wild that there is this whole other world that if you just open your eyes, you can actually experience it or feeling it. Sometimes I feel like, not to get a little weird, but sometimes I feel like my mother's presence is with me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it is actually her or what, but there's just sometimes like if I'm having a hard day, like sometimes I'll just stop crying and just feel okay. There's this presence or something around me that's supporting me, which is helpful and comforting.
It is. Because we're all just bundles of energy. And so
Right.
whenever we come in contact with another bundle of energy, and like your body, your energy remembers her energy. And so that would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think it's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, it is beautiful. I I feel very blessed that I have someone who loved me more than anyone else on this planet, who was looking after me in a spiritual way. Like I
Yeah.
feel very blessed about that. So
Still guiding you,
yeah, I do feel that.
watching you,
I,
still
I
loving
talk to
you.
her sometimes. Like I love to take morning walks on our local trail, and I just talk to her. And sometimes I'll feel like I get answers, sometimes not. And it's comforting just to say, "Hey, mom,"
Yeah.
or how are I miss saying that. So
Yeah. I love that. So where can people find your book?
sure. So you can buy it on Amazon. It's I have two different covers. I have a hardcover and a soft cover.
Oh, okay.
Paperback. So the paperback is orange, the hardcover is yellow, and has a cute little coffee cup on the front. But yeah, Amazon is probably the easiest, quickest way. And if you live in Harford County, Maryland, they're at the Harford County Library.
Oh, nice.
So, which feels really special to me because my mother used to take me there as a kid. So that was a really neat opportunity to be able to put them in the library. So
Beautiful. I love it. That's awesome. And if you could leave our listeners with one thought, like how to um navigate the grief a little bit better, a little bit easier, what would it be?
I think just be patient with yourself. Like, I think we have a lot of just pressure from society to feel a certain way or do a certain thing, and just if it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. Like, if someone is saying go do grief counseling or go do this or do that or stop crying, you should be over it, just listen to your own like intuition and feel it, and if it doesn't feel right, then do what you think you should be doing. That's kind of how I navigated my grief from the onset. I just listen to how certain things, listen to myself and ask myself, like, do I want to wear black or do I want to wear this cherry red, beautiful red dress to my mother's viewing? I just, and it's okay if you're not okay. I think a lot of people like have completely misconceived my joyful mourning is that I'm over my mother's death, and I'll
Mm.
never be over my mother's death. So, I think even if you're struggling, it's okay. Um, and the final thing I'll say is, try to just don't push yourself, if you're not ready, but do something each day that just brings you joy. It doesn't necessarily have to coincide with the person you lost, but just do so, because life is so short. Like, we have no idea how much time any of us has, and I try to do something small every day that just brings me joy. Like today, I went for a beautiful walk. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful weather here today in Maryland. Went for an amazing walk, and it just lifted my spirits so much, and it's such a simple thing. And just being able to recognize that one thing and be like, what, this brought me a lot of joy today. I'm going to see if I can replicate that tomorrow, do something different. Because like you mentioned, Faith, it's happiness is a choice. And I think the more you make that choice to be happy, the brighter your outcome will be in your life. So I think it's just really important to just be in tune with who you are and just and try to choose joy as much as you can.
I agree. Because you're going to be in grief either way. It might as well be on the happier side as opposed to the crappier side.
Totally. Yes, but if you have the crappy side and
Right.
a really good friend of mine said, and I love this, she's also a grief author, Jen Koken. She's like, give yourself a time frame. Like, I'm going to be really mad
Yeah.
in the next 15 minutes or 30 minutes. And you do what you need to, rage responsibly, which I love, and then let it go. Because the
Yeah.
more you feed into that, like it just trickles into your life, and that's what I've learned. Like, you have to kind of give yourself these time frames. I mean,
Right.
if you can, I know everyone's situation is different, but I thought that was an excellent advice. I loved it.
That's great advice. I absolutely love it because
Mhm.
then you've got X, Y amount of minutes or hours or however long you're putting towards it
Right.
to actually accomplish whatever it is your goal is set out to be. So
Exactly.
if it's raging, you got 15 minutes to get it all out. Like you're
Right.
going to get it all out.
Right. Yeah. And if you don't
Because
get it all
once
out,
16 minutes comes around, it's like, whoop, we got to
yep.
reel it back in and
Yeah.
do whatever it is we need to do. And if we need to revisit it tomorrow, great. Same time, same place, same whatever.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Love it.
So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on here. I've had an
You.
absolute pleasure chatting with you.
I
And
agree.
if listeners, if you think that this podcast can help someone else, please share it out there.
Mhm.
Let them know, give them resources that people need. So like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this special episode of Release. All the links plus a few extras are posted in the show notes below. And if you think someone you know could benefit by listening to this episode, please share it with them. And as always, keep going, keep being, keep doing. You are amazing.